I would recommend watching the Joplin May 22nd, 2011 tornadoes. The National Geographic documentary. I have it in my playlist. I'm absolutely convinced that those tornadoes, now I don't know about before May 21st, because starting around April 27, 2011, there was massive tornadoes, and but it's something about the ones directly after May 21st, 2011, the warning of judgment. I'm telling you, I started my channel out making fun of, you know, mocking these, mocking the liars that are over-exaggerating the destruction and the wind and the hurricanes and whatnot, and the news, all the fakeness in it, the reading of the scripts. I'm telling you, I didn't sense anybody reading a script when they were doing all that, and there was a lot of actual footage, unlike what they show us these days. And people, even the storm chaser guy, you know, they look like they were sincere. They look like, because nobody expected, they're like, well, I didn't expect a F5. We don't know where that came from. And the same storm chasers are talking about how the sky was so dark, they've never seen the sky that dark before. And it's kind of ironic that I heard that, because you know, when Satan was cast down, when he was loose out of that prison for a day, 1,000 years, one day, then the smoke came out of the pit like a furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit. And that's the same exact day that I'm saying that I understand it, that Satan was cast down for the one day, and then he was loosed for that little season. But as I'm watching it, and you know, I'm getting a little emotional, because I'm sensing that this is the real deal. These people really went through it. The storm chasers were not expecting it. There was true emotion. Like, even as they're talking, they're like looking into the camera, and it doesn't look like they're reading. I'm telling you, it just doesn't look like it does. I didn't get the sense at all. It was like a 45-minute documentary. It was really good. Which gets me thinking more that beforehand it was a mockery. Everything was a mockery of the warning of judgment. Everybody couldn't wait to start making fun of Harold Camping, and that's exactly what they did. And then right around 5:45 May 22nd, right around right around 6 p.m. evening, because that's when Harold Camping said that that would be the rapture. Did he know it was a spiritual rapture? No, not at all. And if you warn people and say that a spiritual rapture is getting ready to happen, do you think anybody's really going to take that serious? And like, a spiritual rapture? So we don't have to worry about anything? It's just the way it's purposed by God. That's the way you got to get the word out there. It ain't like God's lying to you, you know? He just ain't giving you certain information, and that's his prerogative. He can do that all he wants. Because there's certain information that Satan, even today, he can't have. and he's not going to get it. Not from me. There's certain information that he just can't know. Kind of like he wasn't supposed to know that when he kills Christ the first time, right? When he kills Christ, he didn't realize that he was going to receive the death blow. That once Christ rose again, he defeated death, and Satan was going to be destroyed. He didn't know that, or else he wouldn't have done it. So God made sure that it played out exactly the way it did, where he wasn't told that information. But back to those tornadoes. May 22nd, 15 minutes before noon, evening, 6 p.m. Basically a whole 24 hours exactly, one day. One day, while everybody was mocking, joking, making videos of fake raptures, even the local news channels were just yucking it up, and then all of a sudden, bam! Here comes the real tornadoes from God. I can only imagine how many people, like I know a bunch of people died, but at the same time, how many people really turned to God? And I keep going back and forth with this. Is there people from the elite that have woken up? Or isn't there? Or is there people in certain higher positions that woke up because of this? But I didn't think it was because of this at all. I just thought, I'm thinking, people had to have woken up in high places somewhere. They just had to. Because I don't think everybody's fully blind. And then something, I don't know, something told me just take a look at those tornadoes again, because I remember before, it just seemed so sincere. And so I took a look at them again, and yeah, they seemed like they were definitely real. Everybody's emotions were coming out. And it's not, like, you can look at, just turn the Weather Channel on right now. Go from watching that documentary, and then put this is how you test it. I'm telling you. Then put on the news channel with all the fakery and all the over-exaggeration, and you can tell the difference. And all throughout that documentary, people are, just like, look, I thought it was like the end of the world, like one of the out of the movie. Kinda, yeah. It was the beginning of it. Other people are like, is this real? Because they've, the people, and this is what I'm getting at with these people in high places. These tornadoes, if that is possible, if people in high places did wake up, I'm gonna give credit to that day. That day, the beginning of it, unexpected. Now beforehand, it could have been man-made. They could have been all man-made hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever it is. It's possible that's what it was beforehand. And then afterwards, either way, I truly believe that the ones from May 22nd for the next 3 days, 2 days, 3 days, were from God. And the ones beforehand probably weren't, and that's God's way of slapping people in high places, because how else do people realize that God is true? Experiences in their lives. I had quite a few experiences that made me turn to God and just realize that, okay, yeah, you're definitely real. There's no question about that. But other people, they didn't go through that. So I think a lot of people in Joplin, they became saved because of that. And a lot of people in different positions weather modificators, or whatever you call them, weather creators. I think a lot of those people, they're so used to being able to control the weather. Even JFK said it way back when. They're all about controlling the weather. Now, they're not saying they're doing it for bad reasons. They're trying to act like they're doing it for good reasons, but no, they're controlling it on purpose. So when you have no control over the weather, when you're used to making it, you're used to stirring it up and destroying stuff, when you have no control over that, and then you see that this truly isn't something that we created, this is actually God doing it, that, I don't care how evil you are, you're going to turn to God because of that specific reason alone. So there's my theory, you know. That's how I believe people in high places turn to God, because he proved to them that he was real, and he proved to me beforehand that he was real. And along with those tornadoes, he proved to me also that right after his servant was being mocked for warning people about judgment coming on the world, that's all he was doing, is warning us, you know, the best of his ability, truthfully. Because of those tornadoes, made me think, well, God didn't forsake any of us. I was, not that I was thrilled that people died, but it was a sign from God that something, and I'm telling you, that's what kept me holding on to May 21st, 2011. I didn't know what that day represented, as much spiritual meaning that day had, that whole entire day. I didn't realize what it meant until recently. Until this year, I started to really grasp what that one day was all about. And I think a lot of the reason why I held on to, you know, the testimony of the Word of God is because I didn't think that tornadoes were not real back then. I didn't start realizing what man can actually do until, you know, I get on YouTube about 6 months afterwards. All of this year, a couple months beforehand, yet last year, I started discerning, started kicking in a little bit more. And now it's like, I see too much. But that day kept me believing that something about this day, I don't know what it is. I'll figure it out later on probably, but something kept my attention where, okay, Harold, all right, you were right about the date. You're not always right about, it's like the same thing with me. I can pick a specific date, and but it might not be exactly what the event that I'm thinking of, but the date means something. And that's why April 7th, 2018 meant something to me, because I knew that there was going to be some kind of war that jumps off on April 7th. And it just so happened to be the war that began all these wars and rumors of wars. But not on the mainstream media. Not on the mainstream media. I realized yesterday, you know, because I'm realizing things every day, because we're getting really close to realizing who the hell God is, too. For the people that don't know. Just talking to my old head neighbor. You know, the one that's been in Vietnam twice. They tried to kill him twice there. They tried to kill him in the Korean War. And he's a warrior, so he's still alive. But I talked to him about the mainstream media and what they're saying on there. You know, so many people are deceived by Fox News. so many people are falling right in line with exactly what Fox News wants to do. They want you to believe that CNN and MSNBC, all the other channels are all fake news. Fake news, right? Now, yeah, all the channels, everybody's lying to you, but they're also telling you the truth. I have a feeling CNN and all them, they are telling more of the truth with their conspiracy theories, because that's what they're acting as they're the conspiracy theory channels. So that's why Fox News is saying that they're all fake news. Well, we represent fake news too. My channel represents fake news to the mainstream media, even though all that we're doing is exposing the fake news. And then it's like, you know, people believe that Donald Trump is really president. People believe that all the shenanigans that's going on, and he's making America great again. That they have people believing that the 401k plan is the best ever and the greatest ever, and America's gonna be freaking fabulous. They have everybody believing that the economy is great and bet more jobs than ever. Yeah, we know there's a lot of local hero jobs out there. Trust me, or don't. And so yeah, technically, it's like Trump is telling you the truth, but he's deceiving you at the same time. You just got to figure out which. They got people believing 9/11's, you know, it happened the way it happened, and it's just a damn shame that they toy with people's hearts like that. Yeah, my neighbor's an old head. Yeah, I don't expect them to believe what I'm saying. However, one thing that he did say is this: when I'm talking about America being destroyed, how Pearl Harbor, you know, how did they miss that one? It just all of a sudden, and then, you know, 9/11. How did they miss that? Oh, you guys were testing all the jet fighter planes that day? Right. What a coincidence. So I said, well, what happens if America is destroyed by God and or nuclear bombs from North Korea, South Korea? He's like, I wouldn't believe it, because God is protecting America. God is protecting America. So if he sees the floods coming over New York next week, or soon, the beginning, I just think 7 days after, if they sign some kind of peace deal or whatever it is, 7 days later, the pattern is 70 years is the celebration of something, and then 7 days later, look it up. I did a video about every single time that the 70th year anniversary of something happened, and then 7 days later, the 1947 is the from the Joplin tornadoes, the worst ever since 1947. That's interesting. And you got 1947, and then 2017. It was the first 70-year anniversary on November 29th, I believe it was, with Israel, the starting the talks about becoming a nation again. And then 7 days later, December 6th, Trump Pence signed the thing that recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, Israel. And then they had, and then April 30th, I forget what the, was it April 20th? That's right. April 20th was the 70th year anniversary that Jerusalem started to celebrate the birth of the nation. A little early, but it was only Jerusalem. Only the Jews were celebrating. And then 7 days later, here comes the peace and safety talk. April 27th, 2018. April 28th, 2018, is when I thought that that would be the beginning of the peace talks. It was a day beforehand. I remember I jumped the gun. I mean, you guys jumped the gun on that one. And then, so you got September, May 14th, and then that was the actual 70-year celebration. And then May 21st, 7 days later, was exactly 7 years that I remember the warning of God's judgment on the world. So there's one incident that's true. Like one incident that's a real incident from God out of the 4. And, you know, and the very next day, May 22nd, the very next day, May 22nd, 2018, exactly 7 years later, after the beginning of the hurricanes, Joplin, that really tore through the middle of the United States. Worst ever. It was even 1.5 miles wide. There's that number 1.5 again. 1.5 hours constantly Harold Camping preaching. 1.5 years of me sitting in jail. 1.5 years of me going through that, the sabotage of my work, the targeting that I didn't realize how bad I was targeted then, but they still didn't make me fail. 1.5 years on YouTube. Coming up October 9th, if we're still on air, will be a 1.5 years of going through this whirlwind of fakery and lies and stabbings, backstabbings, and just discerning, like, wow, what the hell was all that about? It's like the Tasmanian devil just came at me. And then the last celebration, I kind of forgot what that was. It was one last celebration of the nation of Israel, I believe. So what I'm getting at is 7 days after a major event that the world takes place in happens, another beginning of I guess how they would try to, you know, like 70 years from now would be on December 6th would be the 70th year anniversary since Donald Trump and Pence signed it and recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That's what I'm getting at, how the patterns are. So the patterns and the time frames and the numbers are extremely important. That's why I come up with certain specific dates and I say, well, I think this is going to happen on that date. And then when it does, okay, good, I'm on the right track. When I'm a day off, all right, I'm close. I'm getting close. I'm not hot, cold. I'm not warm, but it's, you know, I'm getting there. And so back to the elite waking up, certain people waking up because of that actually happening. So remember, elite, remember May 22nd, 2011, okay? Remember how surprised you guys were? Remember Mr. and Mrs. Tornado Watcher and Mr. and Mrs. Storm Chaser? How you didn't expect that tornado at all to hit the way it did? And the people that are responsible for man-making tornadoes, I mean, they straight up showed it to you on the Weather Channel last year. I did videos about that, how they have their hurricane center where they're producing hurricanes. They're showing you on a small scale, which means if they have anything on a small scale, it's worldwide. So remember, people that are responsible for creating and exaggerating the weather, remember that day, May 22nd, 2011. Save the date. Remember what happened. It was real. And everything beforehand and afterwards is mimicking God. So just be careful what you guys plan on doing. You know, as the world gets taken by storm in October, because you already produced the Geostorm movie, and that was last year, letting everybody know that the world will be taken by storm in October. Donald Trump, you smug son of a bitch, you better repent, man. You think it's funny? Yeah. You're not gonna... You guys got hit a little bit. It's gonna be like for 3 days. It's gonna be a long time. It's gonna be 3 days. It might be short time. It's probably gonna be a long time. You guys ain't seen nothing yet. It's gonna be great. You guys are gonna be rocked by it. Just wait till you see. It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fabulous. It's gonna be horrific and horrible for you guys. You guys are gonna get slammed, and you ain't gonna know what hit you. You think you got it bad now? Wait till you see what happens. It's the calm before the storm. What do you mean, Mr. President? You'll see. We got great military people. Trust me. All right. And he even did this last year at the same time. It's the calm before the storm. They say it's the RFB tactics of saying shit beforehand a year ahead of time, or 2 years, and then getting you tired of hearing it, and then dragging it on. And then when it finally happens, oh, we're surprised. Yeah, Trump, I know your tactics. I know your tactics. I know Rob Reiner's script inside and out. And I never even read the damn script. I didn't even know, like, who's Rob Reiner? Wait a minute. That's the freaking Family Guys. I mean, no. I forget what it is again. Archie Bunker, remember? Archie Bunker. Great character, Rob. Archie Bunker. Yeah, how's your comfy bunker, Rob? Hey, Trump, how's your bunker? Are you ready to die in your bunker? Did you forget that those tornadoes were real on May 22nd, 2011? And you guys did not expect that whatsoever? Did you forget that? So don't try it, Elite. Don't try it. For the ones that didn't wake up, that said, it's, you know, who cares, whatever. All right, guy, you got that one. If you exist, I don't know. But for those that didn't wake up, and there's a lot of them, Trump is obviously one of them, because he's still acting. He's still reading his script, playing out the role. I believe that he's not awake. And but a lot of people are going to be awake. Another thing about Harold Camping, the only one coming up with the time frame, the date that I know of, saying October 2nd, 7 BC is when Christ was born. That would make him 39 years old. Right before he turns 40, okay, they crucified him. And I'm not sure where it's at in the Bible, but back in the Old Testament, I believe it is, when they would strike a man, the punishment that God allows on a man is no more than 40 stripes. But they would only beat people with 39 stripes. And that's, I think that, and that's also how many times they struck Christ, was 39 times. Because they didn't want to dare go over and come close to even hitting 40 with a miscount, so they stopped at 39. And that also represents how God, there's only a certain amount of punishment that you go through. And when people think that hell is a place where you die and then your soul gets burned for an eternity, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and you just constantly get tortured and tortured and tortured, well, it doesn't line up with the mercy of God. It doesn't line up with it. And it doesn't line up with His own word, where there's only, you can only be struck No more than 40 times. So you got 39 times being struck, 39 years old, being struck down to death. 39 years old. 39 stripes. I just thought that was interesting, that comparison that lines up. And again, how the world is 7 years behind. Everybody just seems to be 7 years behind, because who heard the warning? Who heard the modern day Jonah warn the modern day Ninevites? Who heard him warn except for the Ninevites? And there's some clips I've been listening to after May 22nd, May 21st, the Harold Camping open forum, people calling in. You know, here's the bottom line. The people that heard the warning and they didn't adhere to it, and they mocked them and scoffed them, and they hated them. As I'm listening to it yesterday, my wife said, she's listening to it, like, because the one guy's like, what will it take for you to just stop? Just stop it already. It's like, she's like, you know what it comes down to? People are just being tormented by this guy. They are scared shitless. That's why they're saying that. Because they're just constantly being harassed by Harold Camping. Because they keep hearing about these dates, but if you're spiritually blinded towards the reality of the things that happen, or you just never heard of it, you're not going to know that, yes, the church age did end back in 1988, May 21st. Look at the church. Would you go today? I mean, if you go, they're probably going to gaslight you and set you up for something in the church. So he came up with these dates to let us know what, again, this is a major date that's going to be world changing, and you think it's a literal thing, but then it winds up, you understand it spiritually, because now you can see, like, wow, yeah, the church's age definitely ended. When did it end? Well, Harold Camping told us it ended May 21st, 1988. It sounds about right. He also told us that the world was going to be under God's judgment 7 years ago, May 21st, 2011. For the next 5 months, he thought. But that was the next 5 months of those scorpions stinging men without the seal of God in their forehead. And they don't even know it. So all these spiritual things, Harold Camping tormented these people day and night.